Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a full tutorial-style breakdown of the ultimate cinematic strategy guide. We're going to analyze Kong's combat mechanics, his raw survival tactics, and the major tech upgrades he secures during his latest Hollow Earth campaign. If you've ever wanted to understand the exact strategies that took Kong from a lone survivor to a legendary king, you are definitely in the right place.
Here's our mission briefing for today. We'll be hitting 6 critical stages of Kong's leveling up journey: base tactics and survival, the first tech upgrade, crowd control and weapons, the ultimate mechanical upgrade, environmental combat mechanics, and finally, the final boss strategy. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, Base Tactics and Survival, Mastering the Hollow Earth Arena. So, in the uncharted zones of the Hollow Earth, Kong relies heavily on pure environmental awareness. Notice what happens when he gets swarmed by a pack of deadly Hollow Earth wolves. He doesn't just blindly start swinging. Nope, he perfectly executes a brilliant 3-step trap mechanic. First, he baits the enemy with a decoy and some vines. Then, he activates a hidden spike pit trap, and to finish it off, he triggers a massive, heavy rockfall from above. It really proves that Kong relies on high IQ strategic planning to manage enemy aggro, not just raw power. But hey, he absolutely still has that raw, brute force in his back pocket when he needs it. For any enemies that actually manage to evade his traps, Kong pulls out a devastating physical finisher. He literally grabs a surviving wolf and tears it right in half. Brutal, right? But the important takeaway here is that it's not just about getting the kill. It's a massive intimidation tactic to instantly drop the remaining pack's morale and force the surviving mobs to completely flee the encounter. Moving right along to Section 2, the first tech upgrade, eliminating the pain debuff. You see, despite those early tactical wins, Kong was actually fighting through a massive physical debuff. In his base state, a severely rotting tooth was causing extreme pain, leaving him distracted, lethargic, and really quite vulnerable. But thanks to an intervention from the human faction, he enters an upgraded state. They equip him with a brand new titanium tooth. That acts as his first major stat boost, essentially removing a heavy status element and giving him a massive boost to his overall strength and combat confidence. And to put that procedure into perspective, it literally took exactly one fully powered, high-tech spacecraft attached to a heavy steel wire just to yank that massive rotten tooth out of his jaw. Now that is what we call heavy-duty medical support. Which brings us to Section 3, Crowd Control and Weapons, Managing Multiple Targets. As Kong pushes deeper into uncharted territory, he realizes he has to eventually square off against the zone's ultimate boss, Scar King. And their combat loadouts couldn't be more different. Kong is a close-quarters brawler, relying on brute strength, environmental adaptation, and his heavy axe. Scar King, well, he's completely built for agility. His primary weapon is a crystal bone whip, giving him lethal long-range strikes and some wild elemental control. It's a classic matchup of a heavy bruiser versus an agile ranged attacker. But before Kong can even get to the boss, he has to deploy some advanced crowd control against the hostile faction of apes guarding him. And his tactics here are just amazing. He uses close-quarters grappling to easily take down long-armed enemies. He shows off incredible ranged accuracy, throwing rocks for precise headshots on fleeing targets. We even saw him slay a giant water dragon in minutes earlier just to assert dominance. And honestly, my personal favorite. For makeshift weaponry, he literally uses a smaller yellow ape as a club to physically batter the other attackers. Whatever is in his environment, he'll weaponize it. All right, Section 4, the ultimate mechanical upgrade, recovering from critical damage. Unconventional tactics are great, but during their first skirmish, Scar King commands the Ice Titan, Shimo, to inflict severe frostbite on Kong's right arm. It's critical damage that completely neutralizes Kong's offense. So how does he recover from this lethal debuff? The human scientists deploy their absolute trump card. They equip Kong with a mechanical arm. This is a human-engineered super gauntlet stored in an underground base. It auto-attaches, provides immediate healing injections to cure the frostbite, and critically gives him massive defensive blocking stats to counter Scar King's whip.
Next up is Section 5, Environmental Combat Mechanics, Navigating Zero-Gravity Zones.
Now fully equipped and healed, Kong pulls Godzilla into the fray for a massive team battle. And here, the environment itself becomes the craziest gameplay mechanic.
The tribal humans activate an ancient anti-gravitational system to slow Scar King down. By mixing a special red liquid into the water, they magnetically connect two massive pyramids, which temporarily nullifies all gravity in the arena. Just like that, our Titans are fighting in a totally chaotic, floating battlefield.
And as if fighting in zero gravity wasn't hard enough, they have to deal with an insane stage hazard. Shimo is blasting her devastating ice breath, introducing extreme freezing effects to the arena. She's literally capable of freezing Godzilla solid mid-air. This drastically alters the whole layout of the battlefield, forcing Kong and Godzilla to constantly dodge and reposition while they're just floating around.
Finally, Section 6, the final boss strategy, executing the win conditions.
The anti-gravity eventually fails, and the fight spills directly onto the surface world. Here is the exact timeline of how we get to that showdown. It starts with Godzilla intercepting Scar King's advance. Mid-fight, that crazy anti-gravity arena activates. At the climax of that phase, Shimo temporarily freezes Godzilla. And for the resolution, gravity is fully restored, shifting the entire momentum of the battle straight to the human world right under the open sky.
So, this brings us to the most crucial tactical question of this whole explainer. How do you actually defeat a highly agile enemy who has complete remote control over a legendary world-freezing ice titan? Brute force alone just isn't going to cut it against that kind of overpowered setup.
The answer? Perfect team synergy to hit their win conditions. It plays out perfectly. First, Kong plays heavy defense, using his new mechanical arm to tank and block Scar King's whip strikes. Second, Godzilla manages crowd control by charging up his maximum purple energy state to intercept Shimo. Third, the mini-ape, acting like the ultimate rogue, sneaks in and uses Kong's dropped axe to shatter the control crystal on Scar King's whip. And the payoff? A freed Shimo instantly turns on our former master and freezes him completely solid.
And that sets up the fatality. With the boss frozen solid by his own ultimate weapon, Kong moves in, lifts him up, and delivers the final devastating blow, completely shattering the frozen Scar King against the ground. Boom! Campaign ended. He successfully completes his leveling arc and restores peace to the